On the cold autumn night of 1892, 17-year-old Margaret Rose Blackwood pressed her palm against a blood stain that had seeped through 17 layers of wallpaper in the hidden room beneath their Kentucky plantation house. Margaret Rose lived in Willowbrook Hollow, a forgotten valley where tobacco fields stretched beyond ancient oak trees and morning mist clung to dirt roads that led nowhere. The Blackwood family had ruled these hills for over a century, their sprawling mansion standing like a monument to Southern power that refused to die. Tell me in the comments your city and the exact time on your clock right now. How many names in that leather-bound family ledger should never have been written in the same bloodline? Margaret Rose possessed piercing green eyes that seemed to hold secrets older than the mountains themselves. Her stubborn refusal to accept the limitations placed upon women drove every decision that followed. Yet, beneath her fierce independence lay a desperate need for acceptance that made her vulnerable to manipulation. The patriarch Thomas Blackwood had spent decades carefully orchestrating marriages within their bloodline. He believed keeping the family fortune concentrated would preserve their dwindling power in a rapidly changing world. His motivations stemmed from pathological fear of losing control and obsession with maintaining genetic superiority. During harvest season, the Blackwood plantation buzzed with unusual activity. Workers whispered about strange late-night meetings in the main house. The smell of burning documents drifted from library windows every evening for 3 straight weeks. Margaret Rose first noticed subtle changes in her family's behavior during those autumn days. Hushed conversations stopped when she entered rooms. Meaningful glances passed between relatives. Legal documents appeared on her father's desk that no one would explain. As autumn deepened into winter, the first shocking revelation emerged. The family's financial empire was built on forged land deeds and fraudulent business partnerships stretching back 3 generations. This discovery forced Thomas Blackwood to accelerate his plans for arranged marriages within the family. Spring brought the mysterious appearance of a man claiming to be a distant cousin from Virginia. His refined manners and expensive clothing immediately captured Margaret Rose's imagination. Their courtship unfolded against blooming dogwood trees and evening walks through the family cemetery. Weathered headstones told stories of previous generations' similar unions. What Margaret Rose didn't realize was that this charming suitor was actually her father's younger brother. He had been living under an assumed identity for over a decade after a scandal forced him to flee Kentucky. Throughout summer months, their relationship deepened through intimate conversations about literature and philosophy. Margaret Rose found in him a kindred spirit who understood her desire for intellectual stimulation. Meanwhile, her mother Cordelia began experiencing strange symptoms. Severe headaches plagued Cordelia daily. Memory lapses occurred with increasing frequency. Episodes of confusion left her disoriented for hours. The local doctor attributed these symptoms to female hysteria, but they were actually the result of slow-acting poison being administered by someone within the household. The first major upheaval came with discovery of a hidden room beneath the plantation house. The space was filled with portraits spanning 5 generations. These paintings revealed an unmistakable pattern of intermarriage that had been carefully concealed from younger family members. Margaret Rose's world shifted dramatically when she realized many people she had been told were distant relatives were actually much more closely related. This revelation forced her to question everything she had been taught about her family's history and her own identity. The smell of burning documents drifted from library windows again as evidence mounted. Margaret Rose began noticing physical similarities between her suitor and her father that she had previously dismissed as coincidental family traits. Her growing suspicions led her to secretly investigate genealogical records at the county courthouse. At the courthouse, she made a terrifying discovery. Her beloved was listed as Thomas Blackwood's brother in documents dating back 25 years. The weight of this knowledge created an internal crisis that left her torn between genuine feelings and moral revulsion. The second revelation proved even more devastating. Cordelia's mysterious illness was revealed to be arsenic poisoning, administered gradually by someone who wanted to eliminate her before she could expose family secrets. Margaret Rose's investigation into her mother's condition led to another discovery. She uncovered a network of corruption involving local judges, land surveyors, and government officials. These men had been complicit in Blackwood family fraudulent activities for decades. The web of deception extended far beyond their isolated valley. During autumn of 1893, federal investigators arrived in Willowbrook Hollow. They followed leads about irregularities in land ownership records. The family realized their only hope of avoiding prosecution was creating an impenetrable web of marriages. Legal barriers would make it impossible for outsiders to claim their properties or force testimony from family members. Margaret Rose found herself presented with an ultimatum: marry her uncle and help preserve the family legacy, or watch everyone she loved face imprisonment and financial ruin. Wedding preparations began amid barely contained hysteria. Family members struggled to maintain appearances while dealing with psychological toll of their situation. Margaret Rose discovered that 3 previous generations of Blackwood women had faced similar choices. Many had succumbed to mental illness or mysterious ailments shortly after their arranged marriages. The family cemetery held evidence of this pattern, though true causes had been carefully obscured in official records. A third shocking revelation emerged when Margaret Rose found her grandmother's diary hidden in the attic. The leather-bound journal revealed that intermarriage within the family had been deliberately implemented to hide a crucial fact. The original Blackwood patriarch was not actually Margaret Rose's great-great-great-grandfather. The true founder of their dynasty had been a Cherokee chief whose land rights had been stolen through marriage to a white woman. Subsequent generations perpetuated lies about their ancestry to maintain legal claim to the territory. The 17 blood-stained layers of wallpaper in the hidden room marked each generation's attempt to cover this truth. The ceremony took place on a gray December morning in the family chapel. Only immediate relatives attended, along with a minister who had been paid handsomely to ask no questions. Margaret Rose wore her great-grandmother's wedding dress, a yellowed silk gown that carried the weight of previous generations' similar sacrifices. The local community was told she was marrying a distant cousin from Virginia. Elaborate false documentation was created to support this story. No one questioned the rushed nature of the wedding or the bride's obvious distress during the vows. Following the wedding, Margaret Rose discovered her new husband had been living a double life. He maintained relationships with women in 3 different states while using various false identities. Her position as his wife made her complicit in his schemes while trapping her in a relationship built on deception. The isolation of their mountain home became both refuge from outside scrutiny and prison that prevented her from seeking help. The smell of burning documents drifted through the house again as more evidence was destroyed to protect family secrets. During spring of 1894, Margaret Rose realized she was pregnant. She began to understand the full implications of her situation. Medical knowledge of the era provided little comfort regarding potential consequences of children born from such close blood relations. Her pregnancy progressed amid growing paranoia within the family. Federal investigations continued circling closer to their fraudulent activities. Throughout this period, Margaret Rose demonstrated remarkable resilience, secretly documenting family activities in a coded journal. She maintained the appearance of a dutiful wife while outwardly conforming to expectations. Her determination to protect any children she might have drove her to begin making plans for eventual escape. She knew that leaving might result in prosecution for the entire family. The birth of twins in late 1894 marked both culmination of the family's plans and beginning of Margaret Rose's final transformation. The children showed no immediate signs of developmental issues, providing the family with hope that their genetic legacy might continue without obvious consequences. However, Margaret Rose began exhibiting signs of deep psychological trauma. Episodes of dissociation occurred with increasing frequency. An obsessive need to document every detail of her children's development consumed her days and nights. Over following months, isolation took its toll on all family members. Thomas Blackwood began showing signs of dementia, though whether due to age, stress, or genetic factors remained unclear. Cordelia, having survived the poisoning attempts, became increasingly religious and convinced the family was cursed. As 1895 progressed, Margaret Rose began implementing her escape plan. She slowly converted family assets into portable wealth while maintaining appearance of compliance with her situation. Her twin children became the center of her world, driving every decision. The final crisis came when federal marshals arrived with warrants for arrest of several family members. Charges included land fraud and conspiracy. Margaret Rose faced the ultimate choice between remaining to support her family through legal troubles or fleeing to protect her children from scandal. The 17 blood-stained layers of wallpaper were finally peeled away during the federal investigation. Each layer revealed another generation's attempt to hide the truth about their Cherokee ancestry and fraudulent land claims. The hidden room beneath the house yielded dozens of forged documents and falsified genealogical records. Margaret Rose's coded journal became crucial evidence in prosecutions that followed. Her careful documentation of family crimes provided investigators with timeline and details necessary to build their cases. The network of corruption involving local officials was exposed, leading to multiple convictions. The cultural traditions of rural Kentucky had played a crucial role in enabling family secrets to remain hidden for so long. Tight-knit mountain communities valued privacy and loyalty above outside interference. Religious beliefs about family unity and patriarchal authority provided justification for arrangements that seemed questionable to outsiders. The remote location of Willowbrook Hollow allowed the Blackwood family to maintain their deception, while natural beauty of the landscape created false sense of paradise. Seasonal changes marked important transitions in Margaret Rose's journey, from innocent spring courtship to harsh winter reality of her marriage. By winter of 1895, the Blackwood family's reign of secrecy had crumbled under weight of federal investigation and internal betrayal. Margaret Rose's documented evidence became foundation for prosecutions that exposed decades of fraud and corruption throughout Kentucky's political establishment. The plantation house was eventually abandoned, left to decay among the tobacco fields and ancient oak trees. Local residents reported that even decades later, the smell of burning documents could sometimes be detected, drifting from the empty windows on autumn evenings. The investigation revealed additional disturbing details about the Blackwood family's methods of maintaining control. A hidden ledger discovered in the basement wall documented systematic bribery of county officials dating back 50 years. Each entry was written in different handwriting, suggesting multiple generations had contributed to the corruption. Margaret Rose's twins, despite initial appearances of normalcy, began showing unusual developmental patterns by their second birthday. Both children displayed advanced intellectual capabilities, but struggled with basic social interactions. Local doctors attributed these traits to isolated upbringing, though modern medical knowledge might suggest other explanations. The federal marshals who conducted the initial investigation noted several peculiar findings in their official reports. 3 separate families in neighboring counties had similar patterns of intermarriage and land fraud. All shared business connections with the Blackwoods through shell companies established decades earlier. During the trials, witnesses testified about strange rituals observed at the Blackwood plantation during full moon nights. These ceremonies allegedly involved burning family portraits and burying objects in specific locations around the property. Investigators later found 17 separate burial sites containing jewelry, documents, and unidentifiable metal objects. The Cherokee land claim that formed the foundation of the Blackwood deception proved even more complex than initially understood. Historical records showed the original chief had 7 daughters, each married to different white settlers in elaborate ceremonies designed to transfer land rights legally. The Blackwood patriarch was merely one beneficiary of a much larger conspiracy. Margaret Rose's escape plan involved more than just financial preparation. She had been secretly corresponding with a women's rights activist in Louisville who provided guidance on legal options for women seeking to flee abusive marriages. These letters, discovered years later, revealed the extent of her psychological trauma and determination to protect her children. The abandoned plantation house became a source of local folklore almost immediately after the family's departure. Residents reported seeing lights in the windows late at night and hearing the sound of children playing in empty rooms. These accounts persisted for decades, though rational explanations involving wildlife and settling timbers were equally plausible. Property records show the Blackwood land was eventually sold to the federal government and incorporated into a national forest preserve. The original house was demolished in 1928, but the foundation stones were left in place. Local hikers occasionally report finding fragments of wallpaper that appear to have blood stains embedded in multiple layers. Margaret Rose's ultimate fate remained unknown for many years. Census records from 1900 show a woman matching her description living in California under a different name with 2 children. She reportedly worked as a seamstress and never remarried, dedicating her life entirely to ensuring her twins received proper education and opportunities. The twins themselves grew up to become successful professionals who never spoke publicly about their Kentucky origins. One became a prominent physician in San Francisco, while the other established a successful law practice in Portland. Neither had children, effectively ending the Blackwood bloodline forever. Modern genetic research suggests that the health consequences feared by Margaret Rose were largely unfounded, though psychological trauma from family secrets can persist across generations. The twins' decision to remain childless may have reflected learned fears rather than actual medical necessity. Church records from Willowbrook Hollow document several other suspicious marriages during the 1890s, suggesting the Blackwood case was part of a broader pattern of arranged unions designed to consolidate power among rural elites. These marriages typically involved first cousins rather than uncle-niece relationships, making them technically legal, though morally questionable. The federal investigation ultimately led to landmark legislation requiring more rigorous documentation of marriage licenses and land transfers. Kentucky became one of the first states to implement systematic background checks for property transactions, largely as a result of the Blackwood scandal and similar cases uncovered during the investigation. Local newspapers from the period provide conflicting accounts of public reaction to the revelations. Some editorials condemned the family's actions as moral corruption, while others defended their right to arrange marriages according to their own traditions. The divided response reflected broader tensions between traditional mountain culture and emerging modern values. The smell of burning documents continued to be reported around the former plantation site well into the 1930s. Forest Service rangers documented these incidents in their logs, though they attributed the phenomenon to underground coal seams that occasionally ignited spontaneously. No scientific explanation was ever proven conclusively. Archaeological surveys conducted in the 1980s uncovered additional evidence of the Blackwood family's activities. Excavations around the foundation revealed a complex system of underground chambers connected by narrow tunnels. These spaces contained hundreds of documents, though decades of moisture damage rendered most illegible. The 17 layers of blood-stained wallpaper were preserved as evidence during the trials, then stored in federal archives. These samples disappeared sometime during the 1950s, along with other physical evidence from the case. Official records cite routine disposal of outdated materials, though conspiracy theorists suggest deliberate suppression. Margaret Rose's coded journal was eventually decoded by historians in the 1970s. The cipher she used was based on Cherokee syllabary characters, suggesting she had learned about her family's true origins much earlier than previously thought. Her entries revealed years of careful planning and remarkable intelligence in gathering evidence. Modern historians have attempted to verify the Blackwood story through multiple sources, but crucial documents remain missing or contradictory. Property deeds from the era show unexplained gaps in ownership records. Marriage certificates contain obvious alterations. Even cemetery headstones display inconsistent dates and family relationships. The psychological impact on Margaret Rose extended far beyond her immediate situation. Her journal entries describe nightmares about bloodlines and curses that persisted long after her escape from Kentucky. She developed obsessive habits around documenting her children's health and behavior, as if expecting hereditary problems to manifest at any moment. Court records from the trials disappeared from county archives sometime during the 1920s. Official genealogical documents were altered or destroyed, making it nearly impossible to trace the true extent of intermarriage within the Blackwood bloodline. Only Margaret Rose's coded journal survived, hidden away in a private collection. Until today, no one knows if the story of the Blackwood family really happened, or if it's nothing more than a rural legend passed down from generation to generation in the forgotten hollows of Kentucky. The lessons about power, corruption, and the dangerous consequences of keeping dark family secrets continue to resonate through the mountains, where morning mist still clings to ancient oak trees. What do you think? Was this a real historical tragedy buried by powerful interests, or just mountain folklore that grew more elaborate with each telling? Share your thoughts in the comments below.